and in the last election, he was for Richard Biden. I mean, Joe Biden, Richard. Joe Biden, and I was for Donald Trump. And instead of, in my opinion, instead of talking about the candidates or the people representing the party, I think it would be important to set the groundwork of what we feel is our connection with the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. So, Richard, with that in mind, what's your picture of the ideal Democratic Party candidate?
Oh man, I think I would really like some classical liberal ideas to come back. Anti-war, more openness to different ideas, more freedom for more people. I'm definitely in favor of more rights for everybody. Something that is transitioning. I mean, this is something that's inevitably happening. So thankfully that stuff is happening. But I would like to definitely see more anti-war positions, or at least like let's be sensible if we're going to use troops somewhere in another country. I don't know why the Democratic Party has gotten away from that. It's really confusing to me. Not that I really identify with the Democratic Party. It's more like picking the lesser of two evils.
More troops or less troops?
Less troops. Like we should, like Democrats should be getting back to the roots of. We should be very careful about our foreign involvement. I don't know why it's disappeared. Both parties are very aggressive with foreign policy, and I don't understand. It feels like Democrats have lost their way here. But I would like to see that become a stronger part of the party again. That's why I voted for Obama. In 2008, he had a very anti-war stance. He said, he's going to pull troops out. Of course, he didn't. So, I hated Bush for everything that he did with the way he handled Iraq and Afghanistan. That's why Obama was, able to defeat McCain. A big part of it, anyway.
Okay, so you obviously don't identify with the Republican Party. So, in your mind, what do you see the Republican Party as standing for?
It's pro-corporation. I mean, now to be fair, I know Democrats are pro-corporation too, but it's just much more blatantly obvious with Republicans. They will always favor tax cuts for corporations. They won't even hesitate. They're for the rich. I mean, both parties are. I understand that. They both write the same types of legislation that gives tax cuts and favoritism to corporations. We have subsidies going to industries like ethanol that's driving up food prices that we don't need to be doing that. But because you have a lobbying group in D.C. telling legislators what to write in the bills, we're wasting taxpayer money in corporations. And it's something Republicans don't care about because they're getting paid by those same corporations to have these positions. And they often come from money, as do Democrats, and so they don't really see issues at the ground level. They're not for the middle class at all. Democrats at least pretend to be for the middle class, which maybe it's a distinction without a difference, but it matters a little more to me. You'll never see Republicans get serious about middle-class tax cuts. It won't happen. It's always, they're going to make it like 95% of a tax cut bill is going to be for rich people. I also think Republicans, I think they just are obsessed with intermingling Christianity in the public space. And they don't really believe in the separation of church and state. It's something they pay lip service to. They really want to push Christian ideas into the public space. And I think it's a clear violation of the First Amendment. So, I think that's definitely a big part of their platform, but it gets dwarfed by their pro-corporatism. And I wish I could claim that, they're more pro-war than Democrats, but I think both parties are extremely into war. So I don't know if there's too much of a difference between them. So what else?
You say that. I'm going to take this in based on what you just said. I'm curious to C, I sense, and you tell me if you sense something different. I believe that we'll be in a war before next year. And
Yeah, probably.
okay,
Pick your poison. Is it going to
why do
be?
you feel that is?
Um,
Why do you sense that? I sensed that before he even took over. So why do you sense that now? And why did you sense that then?
I just feel like we have our fingers in the Middle East, and we've had our fingers in the Middle East for a long time. Some of this is about controlling oil, right? So, the United States wants to make sure that they stay as
We haven't been, but okay.
well, I mean, we have our fingers in the Middle East, right? We've had the fingers in the Middle East since the first Iraq War, and indirectly with Israel since 48, right? Or not indirectly, directly with Israel since 48. Even though the reasons for that are different than why we are involved in the Middle East now. That was more like a Cold War move, and now it's about we want to make sure we have the ability to react if necessary to control oil supplies. But it's all stupid to me because oil's not. Yeah, I mean, look at the wars. It's all about.
What's your evidence of that?
Well, Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait and started screwing with the oil, right? And then we said, no, you can't do that. So we invaded. And if
we didn't turn the faucet on for us.
We benefit. Why do you think we do arms deals with Saudi Arabia? Is it because they're our friends? No, it's because they'll give us friendly oil deals. I mean, our entire political infrastructure is getting tied up into maintaining friction in the Middle East. I mean, there's definitely private sector interest in driving up oil prices too, which infects DC because you have lobbying groups. And so I think that's where the conflict will come, if we're going to have one. Or China decides to go after Taiwan.
Oh, that's a given. Okay, so let me tell you what I see as the fundamental difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And you can say yay or nay. I don't identify with either party. I never support a Democrat because I've never met a Democrat that agrees with me on any of the issues. So they're never an opportunity to limit the government. If you were to ask a Democrat politician, what can't the government do? They can't answer that question. So then the Republican Party has very rarely even has somebody worth voting for. So I feel like I have no party.
Sure, that's how I feel on the left.
But you'll vote for the Democrats regardless, right? Because
I don't think I've met. I'm trying to think of a Republican I respect. I have a very, very tiny amount of respect for Romney. Maybe an almost microscopic amount of respect for Murkowski. I'm trying to think. McCain's just an idiot, but I guess he's a little bit better than the rest of the idiots in the party. I'm trying to think of a Republican in my lifetime that I actually respect. How about Hogan in Maryland? I mean, he's a GOP governor, not a total idiot, kind of understands that we shouldn't be doing extreme things.
Okay, so this is, to me, the Democratic platform and the Democratic Party sees problems and government as the solution. And the Republicans, the ideal Republican, like I said, not too many of these people, the ideal Republican sees problems and sees people as the solution.
I see. I think you're mistaken there. I agree with you that that's Democrats' position, but you're mistaken. Well, okay, you're talking about the ideal Republican, because that's not what Republicans do. Their solution is corporations will solve our problems.
Well, I wish you were right, but why are the biggest corporations, Richard, all Democratic donors?
They're actually, they donate to both parties. A lot of the wealthy people donate to both parties.
Yeah, I understand that. You're right, Richard. But if you look at the percentage of funds that go to the Democratic Party from the richest corporations, it's not even a contest.
I mean, is that counting up all sources of funding? I wonder if that's true at a micro level, like at House race level. I wonder how true that is. Maybe it looks that skewed because at the presidential level it's favoring Democrats, but I don't know if that's true at the local level. Because remember, the presidential race dwarfs everything in terms of spending. I mean, it's just so it could maybe make things look more distorted than they are. I don't know the stats exactly on the donations. All I know is that corporations win no matter what. It doesn't matter who wins.
But that's not the Republican form of government. That's fascism, is what that is.
Yeah, that's something I talk about. That's something I talk about is
aligns with business. Yep. That's not.
We are fascist. I think we've been fascist probably 70s. I think we've. I mean, if you think about Nixon and how he behaved, I think we've been fascist since the 70s. Accelerated under Reagan in the 80s, and it's just been downhill from there.
But you don't see any fascist tendencies on the Democratic side.
No, that's not true. I didn't say that.
Okay.
I mean, they are absolutely aligned with corporate interests. And I think it's more obvious to notice in social media spheres that it's very, if you can disengage from social media and just look at it more objectively, it feels like there's a close alliance between Democrats and social media.
Oh yeah, I've noticed that as well.
Now, this doesn't mean the right doesn't have its own social media spheres doing the same thing. It's just that currently it's a little bit, it's smaller than traditional social media. Right? You can find conservative social media, but it's doing the exact same thing your traditional social media is doing. Which is part of the reason why I think people should just dump it. Like, get rid of it. It's poisoning. It's just poisoning the atmosphere. You don't need it. People should go outside and talk to people.
But people aren't going to do that because people are not engaging in the kind of conversations that we're having, Richard.
What if I told you that this is all planned? Like,
what do you mean?
That we are being programmed from a young age, probably going back to the 70s or earlier, to be machines in school so we can be machines at work. And then once they discovered the power of the internet, which used to be amazing, it used to be free, it used to be very open, and then social media in the early 2000s enters the picture, and they discover how easy it is to manipulate people with headlines and algorithms. And what if I told you I think that people are being manipulated into opinions based on social media algorithms? So this tension that we're experiencing is planned.
And what do you think the goal is from that tension?
Well, I mean, you can rob the bank. Don't you think it's interesting that, I don't know, a ton of money has been printed recently, and as inflation's hitting, and it trickles down, right? So all these rich people are buying assets, lots of them. And so they don't care about inflation that much because an asset's real. So the rest of us are left holding the bag. But we don't care too much because we're busy yelling at each other about stupid stuff. And social media algorithms are amplifying.
Critical thinking is not something that is fostered or
yeah, and it goes way back. I mean, you could argue once we industrialized schools, probably the 1950s, we started stripping out creativity because what they needed was factory workers. Factory workers don't need to be creative. They need to be able to do an exact sequence of steps as efficiently as possible.
Well, we're not teaching history. We're not teaching critical thinking anymore. We're teaching
Procedures.
information. One of the things that I heard recently that really resonated with me, it really left me stunned actually, was the idea that we're raising an A-literate nation, not an illiterate nation, but an A-literate nation, a nation that can read but doesn't. And
Yeah.
when they do read, they read for snippets. They read for Control F, find the quote that you are the word that you're looking for, and then build around your thought around that quote, and never go outside the bubble for the actual content of what is being spoken about.
That's part of the reason That's why part of the reason I take a step back and read some books, like physical books. Just.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading fantasy. Memories of Ice by Stephen Erickson. I'm also reading the Campaigns of Napoleon. Massive tome. I read a lot of stuff online, but you gotta be careful. You gotta diversify where you read. The problem with that is that all of your search history is known, and if you try to escape the algorithm when you're Google searching, or if you're doing some sort of search engine search, they update the algorithm to reflect what you're searching, so they create a new bubble. So you literally cannot make a bubble outside it. Like, you can't escape a bubble when you're reading stuff online, because the information's updated based on what your search history is. I don't think people fully understand what that means, that we're basically being programmed to believe certain things and respond emotionally to certain headlines. They have the studies on this. They know how people work psychologically. And there's nothing that you do online that isn't known.
That doesn't surprise me, nor does it cause me any kind of fear. I just I do my thing. And
but the thing is, you don't realize what you don't
come to get me. Come to get me.
That's not the point. The point is you're in a bubble and you don't know it, and you can't escape the bubble. Think about the full implications of that. There's no way you can escape.
Well, actually, I can, because I don't. Most of my interaction with people is not online.
That helps. Actually, that is one way to escape. But the problem is, are the people you're interacting with in their own bubbles? Like, if they're doing a lot of social media, that they're in a bubble, right? And that will have an impact on your interactions with them.
Well, what's helpful is that there are many and various vocations that I'm called to, and in those vocations, it gives me an opportunity to be different things to different people.
That's useful. Nothing's more useful than face-to-face. The problem is just filtering out the noise.
Right.
I mean,
what helps me do that is to have actual conversations like we're doing.
We badly need it. People need to get off social media. I mean, I know Discord is social media, but we're not sharing this. I guess we are sharing this publicly, but there's no engagement with it. Nobody's liking and disliking as we're talking at the moment. Let me give you an example of just how.
Nor are we basing our conversation on people's reactions.
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, my purpose of doing this is not to gain more, whatever, subscribers or whatever garbage that does with the social media. I simply wanted to see if we could have a cordial conversation about politics without resorting to name calling.
Yeah, it's sad what's happening. It's really sad. I mean, this is how much my boss had threatened my colleague that if you don't get your vaccine, you're going to get fired. I mean, like,
That's not fair.
It's just so crazy to me, and that's just like a microcosm.
What happened to HIPAA?
I don't know, man.
They have to know our stuff.
It's look, there's people out there I think I would never want to be their friend. I think they're bad people. I don't have any sympathy for the rioters in D.C. The people that stormed the Capitol building. I think that they will, they should be facing punishment. But the people that were outside just, walking the street, protesting, Some of those people got fired.
And it's come out that the police actually invited them in.
Well, I think we knew that, actually. I think the day it happened, we knew that. It was super weird. It was freaky.
Well, that's not what they talk about in the.
Yeah, I know. It's very confusing. But my point is the people that stormed the building should be facing criminal prosecution. I mean, they defaced the building. They stole things. The people, though, that were outside, I don't agree with these people. I think they're lunatics. But, they have the right to peacefully assemble. And it's just, some of these people are being put on no-fly lists. And I'm not talking about the people that stormed the building. I mean, some of them are just, they were outside.
It's very fishy.
Keep in mind, I don't like these people. Okay? I don't believe in what they were protesting. It was stupid what they were protesting. But I don't think that, the people, I can see an argument for the people that stormed the building, they could be put on a no-fly list. Even though I don't agree with a no-fly list at all. I don't think there should be it. But we have that system in place. But the people outside, I don't think that they should be categorized in the same group. Like I said, I'm not a usual liberal. I'm a dying breed, I think. I don't really fit in with a political group. I happen to know a lot of libertarians. I don't know if I attract them like moths, to light or something. I also happen to know like various different types of very religious, Christians, and I always get along with them.
One of those one.
Yeah, but I know like some really hardcore Southern Baptists, but they're totally they're totally chill. We could have this kind of conversation even if like we didn't agree on anything. And I don't generally like very extreme religious beliefs, but if people are chill about it, then I'm fine.
What's extreme?
Like just
beliefs?
when you're trying to enforce public policy on people, I would call that extreme. Like if you're enforcing public policy on a religious belief, that's extreme.
Well, all laws are theistic. They're it's just who is the theo.
Sure, I mean I know that religion influences law, but religion should not be deciding law. Talk about public law here. So that's what I would call that extreme. Like if you think that your particular religious sect has a right to write a public law that overrides secular law.
Public, so
sure, but
I would like to help influence with my conscience.
Sure, but your conscience doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. It's sure I have my own ideas on what the law should be. That doesn't mean it should be implemented. Because
I think each of us has their concept of what the law should be, and we should be free to be able to express it and influence.
Sure, we can express it, but as I explained,
laws that we desire.
But the thing is, because of the First Amendment, which I believe in very strongly, you cannot use religion to write public laws explicitly. It just, yeah, I think it's bad. I think it's very, very bad. I think it causes problems because you have different religious.
There is no law that is written that doesn't have a theo that it's serving.
That's why you have to remove it completely. That's why laws are.
You can't.
But the thing is, the laws are secular. The laws are secular. This is where Goose and I are going to disagree for the audience. The laws have to be secular because the alternative is madness. Because you're going to look at what's going on in Israel. Ignoring the Palestinian issue, I'm talking about within the state itself. You have Jewish law conflicting with Islamic law. And I think there's a lot of problems in Israel because you have Jews there that are not religious at all. And they have to go fly to Greece to get married to be legally recognized as married in Israel. because of the ridiculousness with how the laws work. And not to mention, there's problems with Palestinians in Israel that work there. They don't necessarily agree with all of the Jewish laws in place. It would be much, much better if it wasn't a religious state. You could fix a lot of problems that way. And what's ironic is that Jews in the United States are more religious than Jews in Israel, despite the fact that it's a religious state. I mean, think about how crazy that is. When
you should have the freedom in a country that's built like ours to practice your religion as your conscience sees fit.
Yeah, that's part of the First Amendment. I agree with that.
But to restrict it to just within your house of worship is not the point of the First Amendment.
See, I disagree with you. And our founders of the country would disagree with you. They were very clear about this. You cannot have a religious sect write laws.
They would not agree with that.
They were deists, and they purposely wanted to make sure no religious sect was writing the laws. Because it was, Maryland, I think, was a state that formed because Catholics were persecuted. And so they went to their own state to form their own enclave. Because you had, I don't know who it was dominating, probably some Protestant sect was dominating, and they were discriminating against Catholics with public law. So,
right. That's where we created the freedom of worship.
Correct. And it has to mean that you can't write the laws.
Oh, no, that's not true. That's not true. Every person that writes the laws writes it according to their conscience, according to what they think is serving the best interests of their view of the world, their theo. You can't escape that, Richard. It's always going to be that way. What you're describing is writing the law devoid of any kind of judgment, and that's not law.
Well, no, not of judgment, but we don't want bias in the law. In other words, we want to minimize it. This is my INTJ personality type coming out. Or actually, no, this is my utilitarianism coming out, because...
Is there such thing as objective truth?
Well, see, that's a very, very deep question. I think I talked to a philosopher, like a PhD philosopher, kind of about this. I'm a very mathematical guy. I have a strong math background. So I might favor the idea that there's certain things that are just objectively true because we know math is consistent, everywhere in the universe. And the philosopher I actually asked a philosopher. She was like a Marxist, and about whether there was objective truth in the universe. And you would imagine she would say no, but she actually said, yeah, there's philosophical underpinnings to the universe. There's the stuff that makes the math. Because what most people don't remember is math comes from philosophy. Basically everything comes from philosophy. But so she said, yeah, there's universal truths to the universe. That blew me away. Actually, I was not expecting a philosopher to tell me that there's universal truths, and I don't even know what those are. So,
universal truths would be?
I don't know what the universal truths of the universe are. Maybe that's something humans are constantly searching for.
Well, you've heard of Plato's forms, correct?
Maybe. I haven't studied philosophy, so I'm very...
Allegory of the cave? Have you ever heard of the allegory of the cave?
No, I haven't.
No? Oh. It's the idea that we look at the... okay, so you're a person, and all you know of life is the shadows on the wall of this, what you don't realize is a cave. You see these shadows on the wall, and that's to you reality, right? That's the life that you live. That's what you live with. That's what you deal with, are the shadows on the wall. And then based on some sort of intuition, compulsion, or perhaps a guide, you turn your head and look away from the wall towards the fire that's lighting the shadows on the wall. And you realize you go blind for a little bit because it takes your eyes time to adjust to the light. But then as your eyes adjust, you see that, oh my gosh, this isn't real. I'm staring at stuff shining on a wall, not what's real. And what's going on is there's little objects going on behind the fire that are casting shadows on the wall, and I thought that was reality, but these little items are what I thought was reality. Wait a minute, this whole place is a cave. I'm not in reality at all. What is going on here? And you take a long trek to get out of the cave, and it's arduous process. And then when you get out of the cave, as you approach reality, you're blinded by the sun again, by coming out of the cave. But your eyes take time to adjust, and it sees first the shadows of the objects, then you see the actual objects of themselves, and eventually you're so accustomed to the natural light that you see reality for what it really is, and you can actually look at the sun itself, which is the source of all light. And then you have a choice to make. You can either stay in reality and live your life, or you can be a philosopher and go back down into the cave and try to get your fellow cave dwellers to look at the light. This is Plato's famous allegory of the cave.
What if I told you maybe it's all a distraction and it doesn't matter? We're just spinning our wheels. That's it. You know, the more distracted we are, the more we don't notice the treasury is getting looted. So asking like questions about universal truths is a waste of time. But that's the cynical part of me.
Mm-hmm. But if we never ponder these philosophical questions, if you will, I did study philosophy in college. That was my double major, elementary education and philosophy. Yeah, I was going to be that great philosophical king of the elementary educators. Anyway,
they're picking their nose. Good luck.
Yeah, I chose to educate my own children. Anyway, so truth is something we all seek, Richard. And in our quieter moments, we are forced to wrestle with truth. That's why we spend so much time distracting and avoiding those quiet moments.
Well, I would just argue in modern times we're programmed into it. It's not an accident that we are so easily distracted.
So how can you escape it?
Well, I don't have social media anymore except for YouTube and Discord. And I read books. I take walks. One of the things I'm not very good with, I'm an INTJ, so like a personality type, so that means that my sensing of the world is very, very limited. Like reality basically doesn't exist to me. So one of the things I'm doing is going out and taking walks and just enjoying outside to get my senses, back into something reasonable. Because people like me will just stay in their head all day. Because I'm super introverted.
And and that's not a good place for any of us to be.
Well, we like being in our head all day, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't go outside and do something.
If left to our own devices, Richard, we'd all destroy ourselves. So I don't think staying in our own little shell would be good for any of us.
Well, no, the point isn't. It's just naturally we will spend more time in our head than other types of people. I have my kids, so I go outside and play with my kids a lot. Um, One of the things I notice is my mental health is definitely higher because I purposely make myself go outside. I don't even necessarily do anything but walk, for 45
Yeah,
minutes or something.
I try to walk with my wife about every day.
It's
It's a good time.
I mean, there's actually a physiological reason to do it. I think it helps make your bones strong, and I think you get more vitamin D. Um, so that probably has something to do with why you feel better.
Yeah, plus time with my wife is always good.
Sure. There's probably some emotional component to it as well.
Well,
Did you have any? Did you have any other political? Did you have any other political questions you wanted to?
um, no, I think you gave me some things to think about. I think we haven't reached any points of agreement other than something smells fishy about both parties.
I think most people know, but they're distracted. Like, I mean, look, it's just objectively true that both parties serve.
The people that you've mentioned from my party that you admire are the people I want expelled from our party.
Well, okay, don't put those words in my mouth. There's a lot of qualifiers. I said a tiny little microscopic amount.
The ones that you could tolerate.
Barely.
Mitt Romney is.
I could be in a room with Mitt Romney and not want to punch him in the face.
I might throw up on him. So yeah, there's that.
But there's not much that I see in the Republican Party. I mean, I think they're disgusting people, but I can't claim that the representatives of the Democrats are doing a whole lot better. I think that they're serving the rich.
A Democrat you do admire that you think is a right representative of the Democratic Party.
I like Elizabeth.
Okay, let me put it to you this way: if right now, if you could have, because I think I'd be safe to say that most of the Democratic Party, including you, would like to have a different head of the party right now instead of Joe Biden.
Oh yeah, I mean nobody likes Joe Biden.
Who would that be?
I mean, I'll say something you're not gonna like it, but I like Elizabeth Warren's intellectualism, but I know her people skills are pretty bad. But I think.
But you would want her leading the country.
But the problem is, as a president, you need good people skills, right? So Biden doesn't have good people skills. Trump doesn't have good people skills. Obama had excellent people skills. Bush, he's in the middle. Clinton, excellent people skills. I think the first Bush wasn't great, and Reagan was very good at pretending. I mean, he was an actor, so he was good at fulfilling that role of having people skills. So no, I don't think Elizabeth Warren as president would work because she's an intellectual. She talks the way I talk about stuff.
Nobody in your party, in the Democratic Party, that you can say, this is my guy or girl.
I really liked Obama, but he can't run again. And in the end, he didn't fulfill some of his promises too, which is a problem. He's I like intellectual types. But Elizabeth Warren couldn't do it. I'm trying to think of somebody. It's very hard to think of someone for president. I can think of people like policy-wise, maybe in a cabinet position, where they're out of the limelight. That's a little bit easier. I mean, AOC is an interesting speaker. She just needs to be more accurate, if that makes sense. She definitely has some more modern earthiness to her that's missing in the Democratic Party. But I can't think of everybody's so old. Like, I mean, I'm trying to think of like a Republican that speaks well, and that's really.
I have a person that I would really like to be the head guy.
DeSantis is my guess.
Trump.
It's DeSantis, right?
Yep.
The thing is, I mean, he's a scumbag, and it's like he's sleazy. He's just as sleazy as Trump. He's sleazy. He's a smoother speaker than Trump. He's a smoother speaker than Trump. That's why he'll win the primary. He's not going to make.
What has he done that is sleazy?
He does all kinds of laws that favor corporations in Florida. He does all kinds of skeezy voting things to prohibit people from voting in Florida. But it doesn't matter. He's perfect. He's the perfect GOP guy because he's basically Donald Trump, but he doesn't put his foot in his mouth as much. But you know, I called that he was going to win the primary like 6 months ago. I'm trying to think of like, but DeSantis isn't that great of a speaker. I'm trying to think. You know that guy from Texas, Kershaw?
You mean Cruz?
No, not Cruz. Cruz is terrible. That's not sounding like an ass. Kershaw? I think he's a veteran, I think, and he's got like an eye missing.
Oh, Crenshaw.
Crenshaw. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he's a goodwill idiot. He's kind of like the AOC of the right. He has a little bit of that earthy modernness to him when he's speaking to people. I think he would actually be pretty good as president because I think he has some people skills. That's sorely lacking, I think, on both sides.
Well, if we make it to 2024, maybe we can keep this conversation going.
I don't know. I'm not very optimistic. I think we're going to be running into problems with inflation, and it feels like a Carter administration.
Why? Just because we had gas lines? It took us what Carter took 4 years to do in less than 4 months. Biden did. Oh, I don't know why you would get that impression.
No, I wasn't alive. I'm young. You know, I'm 33. I didn't live in that time. But I wasn't a kid. I wasn't born yet. So. It was just funny that we have the lines, and then we've got some stupid Middle East stuff going on, and then inflation. Now we don't have high unemployment though, so we're waiting for that part to come in. You can just smell the disaster coming in the midterms, but I don't necessarily think this is all Biden's fault. I just think it's
amazing what a different administration implements. So I don't see how you can't blame him, but okay.
I mean, you could if like I don't mind that. I think like I will blame Biden if he does something stupid like attack the Middle East because that will obviously drive up oil prices. He did end like onshore drilling or not onshore drilling. What do you call it? Pipeline stuff. You know, which I don't mind. They actually are. I mean, oil in general is bad for the environment. It doesn't really matter how we do it, but we don't. These corporations don't actually take care of the pipelines, so we have hundreds of millions of gallons of oil that leaks, and they don't even pay the price for destroying the environment. If we were to put rules and regulations in that didn't exempt corporations for destroying the environment, I would be more okay with allowing the pipelines to go through. But neither party is going to actually hold corporations accountable. They're paid not to, so. But yeah, the pipeline is going to contribute a little bit. But if he goes to war in the Middle East for some reason, yeah, it's the Carter administration.
Well, we'll see what the good Lord has in store. Richard, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you have a good night, and God bless.
Yep.
Thanks for talking to me.
Yep. Bye.